And we're live. Be Better, episode 8. This time I'm joined back with Mr. Jacob.w.ross.
Back in the saddle.
Back home from his adventures in Dubai and
Egypt.
Florida.
Yep, in Florida.
Florida too.
Egypt, Florida, Dubai. You know, the usual route people like to take when they travel.
That's where I usually start out at.
Spring break. Classic.
Yeah. So, since you've been gone, I've been solo daddying it up over here.
Been crushing it, by the way.
Trying to. It's the plan, right? I've been trying to crush it, talk about different topics, do a little Q&A.
Yeah.
It's hard talking to yourself at 5 in the morning, but I tend to be all right at it.
I thought they were great. I listened to them traveling.
Good. Give you something to distract yourself with my ramblings.
I appreciate it.
So let's get into what the hell were you doing in Egypt?
Yeah. So if you don't know, one of my jobs that I get the privilege of doing is I serve as the strength coach for the South Sudan men's national basketball team. So again, if you know my story, I trained Luol Deng for a long time. We're best friends at this point in our life, and he's South Sudanese. He was a refugee, and South Sudan, as a country, been around 11 years now. They got their independence, and basically his way of helping the country is, what can he do? And he can help sport. And so they have a national team, just like USA basketball. And he decided to take it over. He's a president. He's coaching some when he has to. And basically, hey, we need something good in this country. And what are we good at? Well, the average height of someone for most South Sudanese for a male is 6'6". So can't coach height. And there's a lot of really good players. And Luol obviously has expertise there. So for the last 3 years, we've been trying to qualify for the World Cup and hopefully the Olympics. And we did. We were the number one team in Africa. We were dead last in the world, literally last place in the entire world. And we're now the number one team in Africa and one of 32 teams in the world going to the World Cup, which is amazing.
So when were you dead last? Like 5 years ago?
3 years ago.
3 years ago.
Dead last.
Dead last and now to first.
Number one team in Africa. So the rankings for FIBA, they don't make much sense to me because they're not really current. They kind of reflect the last 5 years. So if you look at the world rankings, we're like 64, but there's only 32 teams that make it to the World Cup. Only 5 from Africa, and we're the number one team from Africa. So that at least puts us in the top 30.
Yeah.
So I mean, for South Sudan, no team has ever made it. In history, no team has ever made the World Cup on their first try. So 3 years ago, you start the process, just like the Olympics, you start the process of qualifying, and there's tournaments and tournaments and tournaments. No team's ever done it on their first try. We did it. And like I said, we did as the number one team, which is pretty cool. So, I mean, Egypt was a good time in that sense. It was a bad time in the sense of last minute they decided not to let our fans attend the game. There's some history there that we don't have to get into, but basically they just decided that they were going to kind of be jerks and not let our fans attend, even though a lot of people traveled. So,
Wouldn't half the stadium be empty then?
The whole stadium was empty, actually.
Oh, okay.
And we qualified. It was kind of strange to do something like that to an empty stadium, even though we literally had 1,000 people right outside the stadium, to the point that they had riot police when we left. It took us 15 minutes just to for our bus to move a block because there were so many people of our fans waiting to see us. And they had to get riot police to wall off around the bus. It was wild. But of course, Egypt played right after us. They were the late game. We were the middle game that day. And of course, their fans were in there. So that makes sense.
Them.
Yeah, I know, right?
Not so much for you guys.
But, regardless, we qualified and nobody can take that away from us. And then we played Egypt the last day and beat them by 20. So
that's good.
Yeah.
Stomp them into the ground.
Yeah, exactly. So it all worked out for that. And, for the country, it's a big deal. People, celebrating, and the president received some of the players, and there's basketball courts being built, and there's just a sense of peace and unity that the country really needs. And sport is a really, really cool way of doing it. In the U.S., we take for granted the fact that us living around Chicago, we can support 9 different teams between baseball.
Hockey,
we have 2: hockey, basketball,
soccer,
football, soccer, Northwestern. I mean, you get into college, NIU, Loyola, whatever you're into. And, in South Sudan, there's really 2 things to support. They have a national soccer team that's okay. And then we have our national basketball team, which is really good. And that's it. there's no colleges, there's no pro teams, there's no high school teams. So the whole country literally follows what these guys are doing. And for me to serve as a strength coach it's a really, really cool honor because you get to help these guys. And I get fans who come to me and they know me because of Lou Wall's post and, you know, seeing me, and I'm the only the only white guy there.
Easy to pick you out.
I pick out, big white guy, pretty easy. And so these fans come up to me and they're thanking me. Thank you for training these boys. They're young men. They're not boys, but in for an elder person, especially in that culture, that's what they call them. And thank you for taking care of these guys and thank you for training them. And it's really cool because it's a way to use a skill that I have for something, bigger than myself. And I think obviously Be Better in general, we started because we wanted to do something to help people.
Yeah.
Right? It wasn't purely business driven. It was business minded for sure, but with the goal of we want to help people and provide a really good value to people for that help. And so for me to get to do this in a way that, helps inspire a country in my small part, it's a really, really cool feeling. The night we qualified on the bus ride back, I got really emotional because for me, I've known Lou Wall since 2010, so 13 years. And I've literally seen something that you don't see very often in life, which is somebody have a vision. I want to do this. And I don't mean vision like they woke up and had a dream. I mean vision like they in their mind, they saw this path of I want to do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And I think it will lead me to here. If I can get these things done, I think it will lead us to here. And I've seen that from 2010 grow to we're doing it. And you see the country, and you see the country, like not very many people in life get to see that actually happen, right? And to see it on this scale and to be a part of it, like I just got really emotional because he's one of my best friends. I mean, it's incredible to see that passion and leadership and energy and money and all the time and energy and everything that went into it pay off in this way. It's just very rare that you kind of get that storybook ending, so to speak. And we go to the World Cup. Look, if we finish as the best team from Africa, regardless of where we place in the World Cup, we automatically qualify for the Olympics, which is the hardest basketball tournament in the world to get into. Only 16 teams go. There's 32 for the World Cup, only 16 for the Olympics.
Yeah.
So we could have a chance to qualify for the Olympics in August, which would be amazing. I mean, it would be really like Disney movie level stuff. So we're not done for sure, but the trip was a success.
Yeah, I'd say so. Last to first.
Yeah, literally.
It's pretty good.
Literally
pretty good
last
success.
to first.
Yeah, you've been going back and forth there for the past couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times when I'm in Africa, it's a combination of stuff for the national team because the tournaments are always, 10 days, 14 days. Sometimes it's a month. Depends on what the tournament is. And then some of it's for just the nonprofit work that I do, which this is nonprofit as well, but I kind of put it in a separate category because it's very specific. The other nonprofit stuff could be anything. It could be a hospital in Senegal. It could be a boxing gym and orphanage in Zimbabwe. Like it could be a lot of different things. But I'm in Africa, 3-4 times a year on average, maybe 6 to 8 weeks, something like that. And I love it. I was talking to somebody today. They were saying they're going to Europe. And I'm like, oh, you should come to Africa. And they were like, which would you pick between Europe and Africa? I'm like, well, I've been to both several times, and I would pick Africa 100 times out of 100. Huh. Europe is cool from the history perspective, but it also, to me, it gets old quick. Like there's only so many museums, there's only so many old buildings you can see, and obviously if you have maybe family or history in there, and that's really important to you, that's fine. But Africa is such an emerging country. It's the youngest population in the world. It's the largest population in the world. There's so many parts of it that are still undiscovered. There's so many awesome, really cool things happening there. It just feels very different. Europe feels like a historic, like you can go to different parts of the U.S. and kind of get history lesson. It kind of feels like that in Europe. Africa feels like a whole different place. So I really enjoyed that part of going. The travel sucks. Flew to Dubai, that's 15, 16 hours. Had 17-hour layover.
It's a long layover.
Fly from there to Egypt, another 5.
Got to plan those flights better.
Yeah, I know. Goodness gracious. And then, everyone hassles you when you come into a country. If you have a U.S. passport, it's usually not bad, but I'm traveling with other guys from the team. So with one guy was with a South Sudanese passport only. They questioned him for 3 hours. You're not really a basketball player. You're not, like the guy's 7'2", and he's with a bunch of basketball players. It's common. It's just petty stuff that unfortunately happens a lot. But like I said, you deal with it and you overcome it, and we move on.
Yeah. Well, you guys figured it out.
Yeah.
Maybe it like kind of lit a fire underneath the guys too, like all this adversity.
It
to
does.
play harder because they're like pissed off about the fans not getting in, about just the process of even getting there just to play the game. You know? You got what it's called days of traveling for 90 minutes. How long's a basketball game? 90 minutes?
No, FIBA's 40 minutes.
220s?
It's 4 10-minute quarters.
4 10s. Okay.
Yeah. College basketball men's is the only thing that does halves. The only basketball they do 2 20-minute halves. It's really strange.
Yeah, that's
women's,
what I was thinking.
Yeah. Even
college.
women's basketball does 4 quarters. I don't understand why men in Division II men's and Division III men's does 4 quarters. Only Division I men's does 2 halves. It's super weird.
That is weird.
But anyway, so FIBA does 4 10-minute quarters. NBA's 4 12-minute quarters. So it's a little shorter game, but 40 minutes. But yeah, I mean, a lot of these guys too. People didn't understand in Egypt that South Sudan, a lot of refugees were settled there temporarily because it borders Sudan. So when the war happened, a lot of people, that's just the closest place you could flee to and be safe.
Yeah.
So a lot of these kids, I say kids, young men, they spent some time in Egypt, or their families spent time in Egypt. And so Lual actually went to the apartment that him and his siblings grew up in. His parents had to go to UK because they were trying to kill his dad. He couldn't even be on the continent. So Lual was raised with his 9 siblings, well, him plus 8, all together in an apartment. He went to see it. So this is his first time ever back to Alexandria, where he spent 5 years with his brothers and sisters, away from his parents. And so for him to come back to the place where, kind of like the story of the team, lowest of low, literally like refugee, no parents, no money, no anything. Could you imagine as a 5-year-old, like that's your life? To come back as the president of your basketball federation, he had to coach the team because our normal coach is an NBA coach, so he's in season, he couldn't come. And then, you qualify as a number 1 team. Like, it's pretty cool stuff to come back to that place for the first time since you left as a refugee and come back in that status. It's really cool.
Was the apartment still there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, he went and saw it. Even the basketball court where he learned to play, it's funny, like he's like, as a kid, because again, he hasn't been back, he hasn't even seen it. As a kid, he remembered everything being bigger, right? He goes back, it's like this small, like, alleyway they had a hoop up in. And Manute Bol, who was, before Lual, was the most famous South Sudanese basketball player, was like 7'6" in the NBA. He used to block everything back in the day. Like, if you follow NBA back in the 80s, early 90s, you would know Manute. But he spent his time in the summer coming to places like Egypt to work with the refugee kids because he wanted to give back. And he used to take trash, like paper bags and chip bags, and put them on the ground to show them, like, how do you step for a layup, because they didn't know how to understand how to play basketball. So Manute would come and put that in the alleyway with the little crappy hoop they had and teach them how to play. That's where Lual learned how to play. So he got to go back there and see that. Like, it's pretty cool stuff for a guy who was a 2-time All-Star and has done all this stuff in basketball to go back to where it all started and all the adversity that he started from. And you talk about be better. Boy, it's a hard story to say that to beat in terms of being better. I mean, the guy went literally from the lowest of low to kind of come back full circle to this place is the highest of high. And, a lot of times in your life, we gripe and complain about different things. Nobody's had more things to complain about than that guy, Lual. And he's chosen the opposite. He's just chosen to continuously get better. And
that's what happens when you don't complain.
Right. Yeah, and get to work.
You know what I mean?
I mean, literally, and just get to work. I mean, even with the national team, the government, at first wasn't really supporting a lot because, they're still trying to figure things out as a country. And it's not like the U.S. where you just go to Congress and like, oh, yeah, here's $500K. Like, go for it. No problem. So Lual had to self-start everything. And, like, the amount of work you put in to literally start an organization from scratch. You're talking about dealing with FIBA, passports, medical, flights, I mean, there's probably 60, 70 people involved to make this thing happen.
Yeah.
And to go in that with no experience and to do what we did in 3 years is wild. But it just, again, goes to show you could complain about it and say, why don't we have more help? And why aren't people helping us? And why are they giving us crap? Or you can just say, you know what, we're going to figure it out.
Be the guy to fix it.
And that leadership shows with our team. I mean, we had some tough games even in Egypt, but we won. I think the smallest margin of victory was 17. Our largest was 27 this window. But we were tied at half in all 3 games. And so that, the team just shows you, like, no, we're going to figure it out. We're going to figure it out. And it just, that leadership by example, that leadership by action, it's really infectious. It's hard to miss. It's hard to, and then when Lual would speak at halftime, you can't not respect the guy because he's living it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like a lot of times you hear people talking, all right, whatever.
Yeah.
No, like the guy's literally an example of it every day. So, a really, really cool trip. I haven't actually sat and thought about a lot of this stuff. It's kind of cool that we're talking about it because I really haven't talked about it that much. You know, you come home and you just go right back to family and everything else.
In the life mode and go.
Yeah. So, looking forward to the World Cup. It's going to be awesome. Everybody should be able to watch those games finally because ESPN, I think, plays it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Where's it at?
It will be either Japan, Philippines, or Indonesia. The draw is like the end of August. It's like the Soccer World Cup. They do like a big draw and all that stuff. And the games will be on, I think it's like a 12-hour time difference. So if we play, you know, at night, it'll be like first thing in the morning here, which is kind of cool. We can get up, eat breakfast, and watch South Sudan play.
Huh. Yeah.
Or if you're working an overnight shift, you can watch us at 3 in the morning. It'll be 3 p.m. for us. We'll see.
Yep. Hold on. Before I put you back on, let's see if I can see Jacob.
On the sidelines, you know, stretching a guy or yelling, something like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So next time you go there, it'll be the end of summer.
Yes. I might go to Africa in June. The boxing club / orphanage project that I've been working on, we're supposed to open that up in the middle of June, which is pretty cool.
Probably nice weather, nice and cool.
Yeah, it'd be hot. Oh my gosh. It's
180
already
degrees.
like 98 degrees there, so it'll be even warmer. But yeah, no, I mean, I might go there for like a week, but the next big trip will be in August. It'll be like a month. It'll be a long trip. We'll have to podcast remotely. You have to get me to zoom in.
Yeah, I could always call you.
Yeah, get a phone card.
Phone card? You're talking about FaceTime. You feel Wi-Fi. Right?
No, my kids, when we were in Florida, we were at Disney, and you know, some of those like bathrooms, they have them like behind these like shops, right?
Yeah.
There was still like a payphone there. I don't think
it work?
No, I don't think it worked.
Really?
I think it was like within the park. I think you could like dial like a number,
that makes
but
sense.
it was a payphone. I think they just rewired it so that it was just within the park, but it was an actual payphone. And I just asked Avery, you know, Avery's 8. I just said, like, do you know what that is? And she was like, I have no clue. Like, literally, wasn't joking, wasn't laughing. Like, she had no clue what that was because her idea of a phone is a screen. She's only ever seen an iPhone or an iPad. She's never even seen a phone with a hand. She's never even seen that in her life, ever. So she had no concept of what that was. So anyway, that's to say phone card. It's just funny. Like, nobody's going to know what that is either. Because, yeah, you just FaceTime or WhatsApp or whatever.
Man, how far we've come.
Long ways.
You can make a phone call on this thing. Yeah.
That's how it used to be.
Well, for those of you who are watching, we forgot about this. New studio.
Heck yeah.
You can only obviously see one side of it. I'll probably do, maybe I'll one of these podcasts when I get more completed, I'll do like what is it, around the room. Just show you around the room once I get it done. Right now we have this wall. I put this wall up, I don't know, a month ago. Finally got it all up, secured. I actually painted it just because in case these tiles have a little gap, it would have been white. So I painted it, button taped it, put the soundboard up. It's funny, I put all these up, like probably half this, maybe a third of it. Came down the next day, every single one was off.
Oh, jeez.
Because I just, you go to Amazon, you buy the foam things, and I go, oh, buy this with it. 3M sticky pads. Oh, easy peasy.
No problem.
Put them on there, slap them on the wall. I got this nice little laser. I'm like lasering the wall to line it up perfectly straight, taking my time, not being impatient Tom. I'm like, I'll just do a third of it, and I'll let it sit, make sure it works. Every single one fell off.
So wait, when you came downstairs, did you go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1?
I just kind of like laughed. I was like, oh, this is because I thought like in case it didn't stick, I wouldn't gonna do that much.
Yeah.
If I did the whole wall and it came off, I would have lost my mind.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I gotta approach this a little bit better. And then I YouTubed or Googled it, whatever, and some guy said he had the same problem, and you got to get poster board from Hobby Lobbies, stick them all on the poster board, and then hang the poster board up. So I did that. So I hung them all. Or I spray glued them on the poster board with like Elmer's spray glue in an aerosol can. And then I tackied the boards up.
I mean, it looks professional.
Yeah, it turned out pretty good.
It looks like we're about to like make some sick beats in here.
Yeah, which I was thinking about doing that too. So I'm making some music.
Jingle studio.
Yeah.
We can make jingles.
TV shows.
Yes. And products.
Yeah. Sweet.
No, it looks amazing. Honestly, it looks like a whole different space. I mean, if you just watch this video, And even like once you kind of, like you said, get more of the things you're planning done and show everybody, like if you would have seen this, 4 months ago, you'd be like, no,
Well, you can.
no way.
It was on YouTube.
I'm saying
right?
before the wall of the podcast. Like this was just like a
Oh
basement.
yeah. There was no wall.
Right.
It was just an opening to really nothing.
The rest of the basement.
I just have like some product on shelves and a freezer, and it was just a boring semi-finished basement. And then put this up, painted this weekend, closed the wall off because if you hear my kids, well, you guys can't hear them, which is nice because I closed this wall off, added a door, soundproofed everything. So now, and then I even threw. I got to put more up, but I threw that like R13 insulation in the drop ceiling. Gary's like, just stack that up. He goes, it'll kill some of the sound. I had some left over, so I got some more. I'm going to do that. I might pull these tiles down and paint them black. Gary was saying that would probably make it pop better. We'll see if I end up doing that. But next things I'm going to do, the wife's going to get some stuff to decorate it. Because right now, like me and Jake were saying, it looks good, way better, but it's very bland. It's very, it's basically just a black wall, black chairs, dark walls. Like it's pretty bland, but it looks a lot better, a lot cleaner. So now I just she's going to put some artwork up, and then I'm going to build a 4-person bar in the corner that's probably going to almost kick out to where this podcast setup starts. So I'll have 2. I'll have, if me and Jacob are on, or my other podcast, Let's Get Stupid, me and my buddy Finn are on, we can have this, and then once it's me, Jacob, Finn, whoever, if we have 3-4 people, we'll move the setup to the bar area, and then we can kind of have dual studios in the same spot is the goal. And then we're going to get like a couch in case like people want to hang out while we're podcasting and stuff. So it'll be a nice little room, nice little getaway. And
I mean, I think you should get a hot tub.
Well, funny you say that. I was thinking about my brother sells those Sub-Zero hot and cold tubs. And I was thinking he was thinking about sending me one. I was going to put it in the corner right here or in the side of the room right here rather. It does cold and hot, but I go, the issue is if I ever wanted to drain it and move it, I'd have to drain it by hand.
Yeah.
So I'd have 5-gallon buckets going to the nearest drain how many times. So I'm like, it might be kind of a pain to
pump it out the window.
I could pump it out the window because you got to get a stick pump, but I have one from work. I could do that. I thought about putting a tub down here, cold tub. So we'll see if I end up doing that. But
Alicia's parents have a hot tub in their basement.
Are you serious?
They do. I've never seen him use it, but it's there.
Finn used to have a hot tub in his house.
Huh.
I don't know how often. I'm not a hot tub guy. I don't like them.
No?
I don't like being lightheaded.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. I'll do a cold plunge.
Yeah.
But the hot tub, not for me.
Well, the room looks awesome.
Thanks. Yeah.
And the other thing is, when you have like large family gatherings and stuff, holidays, you can have another bedroom.
I don't want them in here.
Well,
I mean,
the right person.
Yeah, they could be in here.
The right person. You put an air mattress down, or you have a couch. Like it's all walled off now. That's what I'm saying. It's not open anymore, where you hear everything and all that. So you added a room basically.
Yeah, I mean, we could do like one air mattress in here. The only thing I'd be nervous about is just like equipment and
like I say, you put the right person in here.
Yeah. True. Not my brother Tim.
Don't put Thurston right, not Tim.
Here, yeah. I can trust him. But that's true. I didn't even think about that, and it has an access window, so it's technically a bedroom.
Yeah,
so you can
count it in square footage, right?
Well, it doesn't have a closet, but you're really, picking hairs there. What do they call it? Splitting hairs, picking hairs. Pretty happy how this turned out. Chipping away, almost done. One little wall to finish there, but it's nice to have my own little spot, because I have my office, but half the times the kids are in there coloring, and it's just like I go in there, there's crayons and paper scattered. I just want to okay, this is like I shut the door, I can lock it. I go, not going in there, kids.
Right.
Yeah. So.
The same thing in my house. My office turns into a playroom. And
really fast.
They got a dry erase board in there. They're drawing and all that, which is great. But like you said, it's nice to have a space that you can just kind of leave set up. And you don't have to take stuff up and down.
Right, because this stuff is not exactly kid equipment, kid friendly.
Right.
So it's nice that just I can lock the door now. That was my biggest thing is putting in that door just so no one can be in here besides me. So, looking forward to a lot more content out here. Obviously, more podcasts, YouTubes. I think it'd be good just for like videos if I just want to talk on Instagram for like a minute, just with a better background.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Just like it looks a little bit cleaner. Mm-hmm. So, looking forward to shooting a lot of content down here.
Yeah, and you don't have to worry about being quiet.
Exactly.
You're doing it like 5 a.m. You don't have to wake. You're not gonna wake anybody up.
Right. Yeah. The soundproof's pretty good because I can hear I can barely hear my kids like crying or yelling upstairs, but the mics won't pick it up.
Right.
So that's
awesome.
That's huge. Yeah, pretty happy with it. Getting serious finally.
Love it.
3 years of podcasting. Yep. Getting serious now. Being better.
That's what it's about.
Yeah. What else you want to talk about today? Value. Talk about a little bit about value.
Yeah, I
Before we
mean,
bounce.
yeah. You know, a lot of times these podcasts are just kind of driven by things that are going on in our lives and things that we're thinking about. And, you know, one of the reasons why we started this is because we don't get a chance to share this. There's not really a platform to share stuff like this. You
Yeah,
know,
I mean, yeah, without 60 seconds clips.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no long form appropriate way to like share some of this stuff. And again, the goal is always to be helpful. So something I was thinking about a lot, and Tom and I were talking about earlier, is just like, you know, what's your ability to assess value properly? So a lot of times you hear this, you know, the saying that like disappointment is a difference between your expectation and reality. And I think that you can take that saying and apply it to value as well. Because sometimes in your life, you undervalue or overvalue what's going on compared to what the actual value is. And that can be relationally, it could be in your job, it could be in your house, it could be in a lot of different aspects. But, you know, your ability to properly assess the value, and I'm not talking like dollars and cents, I'm talking about how much does it help your life, how much are you able to help others through it, what's that discrepancy between where that actually is and where you think it is. Because I think a lot of problems are inherently caused out of that. Sometimes in relationships, it's kind of interesting because, you know, we're talking about being better, but being better doesn't always mean change. Sometimes being better means understanding what you have and valuing it appropriately. Sometimes in relationships, you know, people, especially with social media and just the amount of stuff that you can see, you know, people see couples on social media or they see people and they're like, oh, that's better, right? I want that. That's where I should be.
Yep.
And it's like you don't understand the value of what you have right there in front of you. And maybe taking some time to, if you're not happy with where that is, to cultivate that and work on that will get you to a lot better place than it would like just ditching it and you know, going on for something new. And I mean, I think this happens in training a lot. You have a really good trainer, really good coach, and you know, you start to feel like, you know, after maybe 6 months or a year, you're like, wow, like I should be doing something different, or there's someone out there who has something better. And you don't understand that you're getting some like incredible, amazing like coaching, like the things that you've been able to do in 6 months or a year, you were never able to do before. But because it's now your standard, like you were talking about, right, on one of the 2 podcasts previously, your standard now has raised to a point where it becomes normal for you.
Yep.
But you can't let that normalcy equate to unvaluable, because that's not the same. You want your normal to be super valuable,
Yep.
but you have to recognize and you have to consciously point that out, because otherwise you get to a place where you're constantly seeking a higher value that doesn't exist. It doesn't mean that, like I said, that you can't be better. It's just being better means working within what you already have in that particular instance. And like I said, I think the best example, like the A to B example, is training. If you have a really good coach, you know, in your relationship with your spouse, I think that's a really good example. You know, if it's a, you know, sometimes it's appropriate, whatever, to split up. But I think a lot of times you can just, hey, let's just commit to working on this. Let's commit to figuring this out. Let's commit to getting this better, because there's a lot of value here. And just because, you know, what's became normal might equal boring for you, that doesn't mean it's unvaluable.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times I always kind of said, not that it's not right, nothing's 100%, but the more I see couples posting about each other, and like, oh, what a happy life they have. Like, it must be so great. They're posting about each other all the time, yada, yada, yada. Typically, in real life, not on Instagram, it's the opposite. They just got in a huge fight, or there's jealousy, or someone's doing something else behind someone's back, so they're trying to rekindle, like, oh, I love you so much. So it's like, I always see those posts, and I'm like, yeah, do you? Is that really going that well? So I always try to see it the opposite way, because I used to see it like, oh, it must be nice to have that or this, or they're always so happy. She's always posting about them. I'm like, typically, if you not always, right, but if you never see them post about their wives or whatever, like, usually the relationship's fine. I just don't have to get in the mountain and tell everybody about it.
Right.
And so it's funny that you say that, because I used to think the one way, like, oh, this is so nice. And then I'm like, I never post about my wife. My wife never posts about me. We're still doing pretty good. Like,
right.
It's just, you get so much caught up in that fake reality of everybody's highlight reel, and you're like, I don't come home and the kids scream and they're happy to see me and my wife's kissing me and we're laughing on the couch and having fun.
Catch-up fights.
You're just playing. And then for Christmas, I bought her a car and she was surprised. And there's no worry about like, you didn't talk to her about buying the car. And then like, you worried about all the ketchup fight. Like, you know, you see those commercials and like the highlight reels. And then you come home day after day and it's like the kid had a bad day at school. The wife's maybe been dealing with the kids yelling at her for an hour. She's tired. Yeah, maybe they're happy to see you, but they're not going to show it because they're aggravated. They're in their own world, and you start taking it personally. Like, well, on the TV, they're happy to see. Why aren't you happy? It's like, step back, understand that you're not invaluable at the time. It's just, it's not a highlight reel every day,
right?
You know, and people I think have a hard time getting used to that, or they don't want to get used to it, and that's where like you start seeing separations. You start seeing things. It's just not how I planned. Well, what was your plan? A fantasy?
Right.
We don't live. That's not real. It's not a real thing to achieve. You know what I mean? So like, people don't understand. I think the day-to-day grind of just keeping a family, keeping everybody happy, and understanding that you do have value, but it's not all the Instagram reel bullshit.
Well, and you know, I was listening to a podcast actually about relationships. It just came across some of the stuff that I listened to, and there was like this relationship expert who's been doing it for like 40 years. And, you know, basically one thing she was saying is that inherently relationships get boring because the longer you're together, by definition, you become more the same, right? When you first start dating, everything's different. You don't know this person. They don't know you. You're learning a lot about each other because you don't know it. But if you've been together 5, 10, 15, 20 years, now everything's the same. You live in the same house. You have the same kids. You know what everything's going on.
Yep.
So there's nothing new anymore. So inherently, it's going to become boring. And what she was saying is that that is actually a good thing because that normalcy leads you to a place of low stress because you're not stressed about what's going to happen and how they're going to react and what's going on. But the thing that you have to do to make your relationship work long term is to consistently choose that normalcy is good, and we're gonna continue to do it together, because you can get to a place where you start to take that for granted, and that's kind of what we're talking about. That value, that high value that you have, you start to take it for granted, and you're not choosing on a daily basis, hey, I'm going to do my best for this person, or I'm going to be my best for this person, and we're going to figure this out. And you get to a spot where you start choosing, you know, oh, well, maybe this is better, and maybe that is better, and then before you know it, you start, you know, getting apart. And anyway, she was just saying that, like, the normalcy is inevitable, and what keeps it long lasting is that choice on a daily basis. And I think it's a lot about what we're talking about. Is you have to look at the value you have in your life, and you have to make a choice. Is the value high, and my perception of it is wrong, so let me choose a better perception? Or is my value actually low, and I'm choosing the wrong value on this? Like, my perception's wrong, and let me self-correct and get to a place where I actually understand where I'm at. Because you can't make any progress, and you hear this all the time, you cannot make any progress if you don't come to the place of reality, where you really understand the circumstances and where you're at. Because if you don't admit it, if you don't talk about it, if you don't bring it to the front, you're not going to get better.
Yeah, and like self-correcting, like you just said, like if you think that just you by yourself are always right, or 99% of the time you think you're always right, it's going to be a very hard life, especially if you have a partner who's the opposite. Like when I got with Amber, she was very opposite of me, opposite everything, opposite political views, opposite parenting views, all that stuff was opposite. I'm like, oh, this is going to work.
Yeah.
Like, man, you were wrong on a lot of things, Amber. But it's like, the more I question things that have been like pre-wired in my brain, like the way I react to things, the way I think about things like immediately the way I think about things without thinking about them, the more I question that, the more like doors are opening in my life. Like, maybe that wasn't the right response. Maybe I don't understand this as well as I thought I did. And the more I question myself, not that I'm always wrong all the time, but now I'm like, it's at least I'm trying to self-correct or getting help to correct those things. Because for the first 30 years, I'm like, wow, everybody else is wrong.
Well, and you could be right, but there's a lot of nuance, I think, that gets lost when your mentality is, I'm 100% right. You might be 90% right, or 85% right, or 87% right, but that doesn't mean you're 100% right. And I think with and I think you and I are similar in that I'm like you. I think that I'm right a lot of the times. And I think something that I had to learn from Alicia is when we started dating, she's like, Jacob, sometimes you come across as condescending because you speak with that authority of I'm right and therefore everyone else is wrong. And yeah, you are right most of the time, but there is times where you're wrong, or maybe you're partially wrong, but the way that you speak about it, you never give anybody a chance to like chime in or like give that perspective. And as a result, you come across as like an asshole. And so like learning that part of it it's your instincts are probably right. There's a reason, we've talked about this before, there's a reason why you're successful, in your lifting, there's a reason why you're successful in your businesses, in your marriage, in your family. Those are all real things that are important to who you are. But it doesn't mean that there's not room to learn and room to grow. And it's, I think, walking that line of I'm confident in who I am, but I also understand that I'm not everything.
Yeah, and I think just coming to that self-realization eventually in life is very hard. Because people get so not self-wired, but just predisposed wiring from their upbringing, from their, how do they got to where even they are. And they think, well, I got this far, I must be right. Maybe you're not. So my whole thing lately has just been like questioning everything I do, and not so much why am I the way that I am, but why do I respond the way I respond. Like I'm questioning everything, maybe over questioning sometimes, but I think it's good just to get different perspective and then talk about it a little bit and be like, okay, why is this, why is that, and not get emotionally attached if I am wrong or to any situation that if I disagree with something politically, I shouldn't just be like, fuck you, do you know the fuck, like, that's not, like, hold on, because part of being a good leader, and we've talked about this before too, is let everybody else talk, which does two things. Let everybody talk first, which does two things. Lets everybody be heard, right? Because if people get to talk, they get off what's off their chest. Mm-hmm. They feel like they've been heard, especially if you can repeat some of it to them when you respond. And it lets you hear everything and have a better response to those people, which usually helps people understand what you're saying as well. And that's a big thing in leadership too, is being the last person to talk, but it's also the very hardest thing to do.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times when I've worked with, let's just take it to training, it's a very easy example. When I've had clients message me and say, you and I had this conversation, I think a couple weeks ago. You were like, oh, my squats suck this week, my bench sucked this week, my deadlift sucked this week, everything sucked this week. Yep. Training's not going well. And I'm like, okay, but what I heard you say, the sentence before that was, you were sick for like 4 days, you barely ate, you had to work 4 16s in a row. So what I'm hearing you say is, yeah, you feel like your training's going well, but it's not going well because things that are literally outside of your circumstance, you're training through them, but you're not set up for optimal success the way that what's going on in your life right now. And I think when you hear someone else speak, it allows them to also vocalize their thoughts, which makes them real. Because a lot of times you get stuck in your head. And until you say it and then someone else says it back to you, you're like, oh, I didn't realize that that's how I was speaking. David Goggins talks about that in his last book, where he had a friend who was like always negative. And so one day he knew his friend was coming over and he recorded him, right? And he played it back to his friend. His friend was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that I sounded like that. Yeah. And I think what you're talking about, like letting other people speak first and it gives them a chance to like get it off their chest, like you said, but also for you to say back to them what they're saying, which I think is the first time for a lot of us that we have that mirror. Because a lot of times when you speak in your head, it just goes out and it never comes back. It just goes out. Just keeps going out. It never reflects back on you. And a real leader will reflect that back on you in a kind way. Like, not like, you ignorant gooberhead. It's more like, hey, like, here's what you're saying. And then it becomes, oh, wow, it's pretty obvious that I'm, I need to work on that.
Yeah, it's a popular negotiation tactic too, is mirroring the person. Helps them talk more. So if you're like, usually if I'm in a discussion with somebody, I'll try to mirror what they're saying. So that way they felt heard and you get the most information out of them. Not like a, controlling way, just to help me understand what they're saying. Sometimes I'm not a one-time look at something, fix it. Okay, I understand it. I need to hear it like 5 times. And I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. Now I got it. Yeah. Takes me a little bit long. I'm a little slower in that realm.
Yeah, but you got to develop trust. I mean, you have to have trust with people. And if someone never feels heard, they're not going to trust you, which means they're not going to listen to you.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I'll just say this in terms of value. I think a lot of times we put our value up against what we perceive as normal. And I would say, like in relationships, I think normal is a pretty varied thing. And the more that I travel, the more that I see how many different normals there are in the world and what different people are. And I think it comes down to, like, check your normal against your personal, like, moral beliefs. Check it against, your religious beliefs. And then check it against what you and your spouse or whoever the relationship is, your best friend, whatever it is, what's normal for you guys. Like for me, like it's normal that I leave for a week or two and my wife takes care of everything at the house. For some people, that's not normal, and they wouldn't be okay with that. Alicia and I are great with that. We have no problems there.
Yeah.
So normal, I think, is different for everyone. So I think about what's normal and what do you enjoy about that normalcy, and then ascribe your value to it and then act accordingly. If it's very valuable, then treat it that way.
Yeah, kind of like one of the things we've done just on that relationship bit, and then we can wrap this up. Like the normalcy of me and my wife dating each other. Like you get so wrapped up in the day-to-day. If we don't have a schedule on anything, yeah, we'll go out. Fucking when?
Right.
Like it just, next Saturday, and we're not doing anything, and we'll try to go out, and then I get stuck at work, and then it falls apart. Like, so now our thing is like Wednesdays, we have like, it's like literally 90 minutes together. We drop off Emery from school real quick, and then we go to our favorite little local tavern. We have like 3 drinks. We have like a sandwich, and we split an appetizer every single Wednesday, unless I'm like stuck on Storm, which is kind of rare on a Wednesday. But so like 9 times out of 10, we're always there. We have our 90 minutes together. We catch up. We hang out. Otherwise, like the weekends are hit and miss with work or training or whatever we have going on that weekend, or the kids got a birthday party. It's like it's so hard to line everything up. So having that understanding and setting the tone of this is what we're going to do every week will help us kind of realign our values. And, sometimes we don't feel heard, and then we have that Wednesday to kind of like get everything out. And then even Dr. Jordan Peterson talks about like 90 minutes a week is what's necessary to keep a relationship.
Well, and if you want to take it outside of like a romantic relationship, even you think about our group of people that lift. Like we'll lift for, I don't know, sometimes it's 90 minutes, but like an hour and 15.
Yeah.
But then we sit around and talk for 20 or 30.
Yeah, at least. Sometimes it's like, all right, guys, get out of my house.
Yeah, I mean, like
it's like 11 o'clock. Bounce.
Like we don't consciously choose that, but that's just kind of the rhythm that you fall into because we like hanging out with each other and like that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting that he gave a window to it because it seems to be about right.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. So let's wrap it up on that.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to be back, and should be podcasting for a while until I go to Africa or whatever again. But again, we can always call and figure that out if it's going to be a long time.
Absolutely. If you like this podcast, if you like our messages, if you want to support us, all of our stuff is in the bio below. Official Be Better Brand on Instagram, BeBetterBrand.com on the website. Apparel, women's cropped hoodies, men's hoodies. We just started doing the hoodies, men's and cropped women's hoodies. The logo on the front, Be Better on the hood, and the logo on the side. So both of those type of hoodies have those kind of cool additions on them now. T-shirts, and then of course our training, our nutrition advice is all through the website as well. If you're looking for any kind of training, we start training as cheap as $39.99 a month to get a template coached by me or Mr. Jacob.w.ross. So if you're looking to support us, support the apparel, the coaching, the training, the nutrition, check us out because it's just us down here. No sponsors on this podcast. Just us giving up, about an hour of our time every week to provide value to you guys. So if you like and support what we are doing, the messages we are trying to push out, please support us by buying some stuff from our website because it does help move that needle.
Yeah, absolutely. And, like you said, there's a lot of value in just you and I getting time to talk like this. But again, the reason why we're doing it is because we want to help other people. Mm-hmm. If it was just you and I talking, we wouldn't have a wall in a room and all the effort that's going into. We would just go back out to the gym.
Yep. Go to the bar. It's easy. So this is it takes a little bit more time for us to do this and time to upload and all that stuff. So if you like it, check us out, support us. We're trying to support you guys. So pass it along. Appreciate it. Everything's down in the bio if you're looking to follow us. If you've seen our podcast and don't know what we're all about, check out the website, check out our Instagram, and learn more about us. We're about 8 episodes in, and we got about 1 million to go. So
minimum.
And then soon I'll do probably about a month or two, I'll do a podcast room update once I get some more stuff done in here. It's a little less bland. So look forward to that on the YouTube. But if you want to check out what the studio looks like now compared to last week, both YouTubes will be up if you're listening to this. And you can check out the difference, starting to chip away at doing better stuff with YouTube. So this will help.
Yeah, absolutely. So I appreciate you carrying it.
Oh, yeah. Be better.